Joining us now to discuss Elon Musk and all the Twitter drama is Aaron Rupert. He's an independent journalist and publisher of the Public Notice newsletter and one of the journalists affected by Twitter's decision. Great to have you on the show, Aaron. Now, as an independent journalist, Twitter is a hugely important platform for you, isn't it? Tell us why you were suspended, then reinstated, and how it's impacted you and your career.
Yeah, I was suspended for posting a link to a Facebook account that tracks Elon Musk's private jet, what airport it flies to and from, things like that, which, I posted this tweet on Wednesday morning. Later Wednesday, Musk posted a Twitter thread announcing that even linking to outside sites that track his jet constitutes a violation of their terms of service. We could get into why I think that's kind of a silly policy, but I think the broader point here is that the rules are basically whatever Elon Musk wants them to be at a given time. And so, as you alluded to, as an independent journalist, I rely on Twitter, for an audience, for new subscribers, for readers, to get my content out there. And so I was very despondent at first, but it turns out that, I received so much support and love and new subscribers because of this that I think for me personally, it ended up being a net positive, even though I think the broader picture of what's happening to Twitter is quite discouraging.
How does it impact the way you approach Twitter now? Is there a sort of a sense that you might now soften what you say or do on the platform? Is there a feeling that this was an attempt to censor criticism of Musk and his businesses in general?
Yeah, I'm still feeling that out. Certainly the one thing that myself and the other journalists who were suspended over the weekend had in common, beyond posting a link to this Facebook account, is that we have all been critical of Musk in the past. And so it does seem to me like there was an intent here to kind of have a chilling effect on coverage that is critical of Elon Musk or his companies or Twitter. Just today, before we hopped on this call, Twitter announced a new policy prohibiting promoting other social media platforms on Twitter, which is raising a lot of questions about, will Facebook's account be banned from Twitter because they use it to promote Facebook? So I think, again, the big picture here is that it seems like the rules are kind of whatever Elon Musk wants them to be at a given moment, and that's not really a sustainable way to operate a major social media platform. And so I think it'll be interesting as we go forward to see when, big media outlets, public figures, brands will make that decision that it's no longer really worth the trouble of being on Twitter. It seems like that's the path that we're heading down now.
Yeah, I mean, Musk describes himself as a free speech absolutist. He's denied accusations that the suspensions were in retaliation for critical coverage. But what do you think his practices say about how Twitter is operating now and what it means for press freedom?
Yeah, I think it's a really bad thing for press freedom because, again, these specific instances, myself and other journalists, it seems like we were targeted in part because we have been critical of Musk, but Musk has been very transparent with his right-wing leanings politically. He literally asked his followers to vote for Republicans in the midterm elections here in the U.S. And so I think it does raise questions about, if there is political coverage that he doesn't like, if he could kind of concoct a rule to ban journalists who are left-leaning, progressive journalists, or journalists, like myself, who are critical of Republicans and the American right more broadly. So it's hard to predict. If you would have told me a week ago that I would be doing a series of media interviews because my Twitter account had been suspended, I wouldn't have believed it. So, who knows what the next change in the terms of service will be. I guess we'll all just have to wait and see what Elon is feeling tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you're fairly saying you feel targeted by Musk, but what about the argument that has been made that yourself and the other journalists suspended didn't complain when right-wing users were suspended under the old leadership system? Do you think that there is a valid point to be made there?
Well, we would have to talk about specific cases. I mean, certainly in the case of someone like Donald Trump, I think that, using the platform to organize and incite an insurrection pretty clearly created some safety hazards for people out in the world that I think made it responsible for Twitter at that time to suspend him from the platform. There might be other specific instances where maybe I would feel differently and that, certain forms of speech should have been allowed on the platform. More broadly, the thing that I will say is that in the pre-Elon days, it at least seemed to me like Twitter was a rules-based company where if people were suspended, there was a process for appealing. There were rules that applied to everybody. And I think what this shows today, my suspension, the suspension of other journalists, and even subsequent suspensions that have happened since mine, is that, the rules are basically whatever Elon wants them to be. And so it doesn't really feel rules-based. It feels more like kind of a dictatorship at this point.
It's certainly going to be interesting to see how it impacts Twitter as a whole and whether or not people are going to start dropping off their subscriptions. But really interesting to get your insight, Aaron. Good to see you back on Twitter. Aaron Rupert there for us, independent journalist and publisher of the Public Notice newsletter.